because you wake up and you immediately see economic anxiety or violence or division or layoffs or disasters, political chaos, tragedy. I could go on and on. And all of this before you've even finished your first cup of coffee. Welcome to the Bounce Back Black Woman podcast. I'm Dell, coach, author, mom, and your sister along this journey of healing, growth, resilience, and living more intentionally. As Black women, we know all too well that life can break our hearts in more ways than one. But here in this space, we heal, grow, rebuild, and bounce back together. Because it's not just you. It's not just me. It's us. Hey there, my friend, and welcome back to Bounce Back Black Woman. Today's episode feels especially timely and especially necessary because, if I'm being really honest, I think a lot of people, women, Black women, are carrying a level of emotional exhaustion that we really haven't even fully acknowledged yet. And I'm not just talking about being physically tired. I'm talking about mentally drained, emotionally overloaded, spiritually weary, and quietly overwhelmed by the heaviness of life, particularly life in the United States today. Of course, we distract and we disengage when we need to. We do things that bring us joy and fill us back up. But the realization of what is going on, the constant hits of breaking news, are wearing on many of us, even if we're not ready to acknowledge it. And the thing is, sometimes the heaviness isn't coming from one single source. Sometimes the heaviness comes from relationship stress, dating stress, financial pressure, caregiving responsibilities for our elders, grief, uncertainty, burnout, loneliness, the news cycle, division, fear of the future, the job market, the endless applications that basically leave you ghosted, or even simply the nonstop emotional noise of everything surrounding us in this world. And after a while, your nervous system stops feeling safe. It just does. It becomes numb. And that is real. I think many of us have gotten so used to functioning while we're emotionally exhausted that we don't even recognize how heavy everything has become. It's just sort of become this new normal. And that's okay because we've had to adapt in order to keep going. But we still just keep pushing and keep scrolling and keep working and keep surviving. But my friend, survival mode is not the same thing as peace. It's not. Today, I want us to talk honestly about how to protect your peace in a world that constantly feels noisy and heavy. Not by pretending that reality doesn't exist, not by disconnecting from humanity, not by becoming numb, and not by ignoring, but by learning how to stay emotionally grounded without allowing the heaviness around us to consume us completely. I think one of the hardest things about this particular season is that the heaviness is coming from every direction at once. I mentioned a lot of them at the top of the episode. But it feels like years ago, stress was more compartmentalized. You had work stress at work. You had relationship stress when you weren't working. You had financial stress when bill paying time came. You had parenting stress when you were dealing with your children. But now, everything just feels woven together, layered, one on top of the other, because you wake up and you immediately see economic anxiety or violence or division or layoffs or disasters, political chaos, tragedy. I could go on and on. And all of this before you've even finished your first cup of coffee. Social media has definitely intensified it because it's all on our phones, which is one of the first things most of us grab in the morning. Because we're not just carrying our own pain, we're constantly consuming everybody else's pain too. And while empathy is a beautiful and necessary and admirable thing, constant emotional exposure without boundaries can quietly destroy your peace. And that's why some people feel emotionally exhausted before the day even really begins. And it's not because they're weak, it's because the human nervous system was never designed to absorb this much heaviness all day, every day. That's just not how God wired us. It's not because we can't handle life. And this is something that I've personally had to learn myself. You can care deeply about people. You can care deeply about injustice and suffering. You can care deeply about family. You can care deeply about your relationships and the world and country around you without carrying the emotional weight of everything on your shoulders at all times. And that doesn't mean that you can't care about all of it. You just don't have to carry the emotional weight of all of it. Because some of us, especially women and Black women, are caregivers, helpers, fixers, empaths, and we have a tendency to absorb everything emotionally. We internalize everyone's pain, everybody's disappointment, everyone else's needs, everyone's emotions, and eventually we become emotionally overloaded ourselves. Not because we're bad at coping, but because we never learned emotional boundaries. And honestly, many Black women, especially, were conditioned to believe that strength meant enduring and carrying and sacrificing over functioning and staying emotionally available, no matter how depleted we become. But my friend, constant emotional depletion is not a badge of honor. At some point, protecting your own peace becomes necessary for survival. You know the direction that the flight attendants give you when you get on an airplane about the oxygen mask dropping down from above, to put your own mask on first and then help your children or those around you who might need help. It's the same scenario. Protecting your peace is like putting on your own oxygen mask first. Now, I want to be clear, it doesn't mean pretending bad things aren't happening. It doesn't mean you need to absolve yourself of doing the work that you can to help improve things. It doesn't mean becoming self-centered or ignoring reality or disconnecting from your own compassion. It doesn't. And that is not what I mean. Because honestly, some people misuse that phrase, protect your peace, in order to justify simple avoidance, denial, or emotional detachment. True peace isn't denial. True peace is emotional stewardship. It's learning what it is you consume and then managing that. When and where and how you engage, and making deliberate choices about that. Figuring out what deserves your energy and what doesn't. And knowing when your mind, your body, and your spirit and your soul need rest. Sometimes protecting your own peace means turning the news off, putting the phone down, deciding to walk away from the argument, leaving the unhealthy relationship, even if there was still potential there, setting boundaries, saying no, resting without feeling guilty, or simply admitting I cannot emotionally carry all of this today. That's wisdom, not weakness. And honestly, there is one thing that teaches you that peace becomes precious, and that thing is grief. Because when you've experienced loss, someone no longer being on this earth, you start realizing just how fragile life really is and how short it really can be. We put off all the time. I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to do that next week. I'm going to do that next year. My dream board, my vision board. And true, you can't do everything today. But what is it that you are choosing to do today to get you one step closer to the things on your board for tomorrow and next week and next year? When you start realizing how fragile life really is and how quickly it can end, your priorities begin to shift. You stop craving constant chaos, unnecessary conflict, performative busyness, and emotionally draining environments. When grief changes you, it makes you realize time matters, energy matters, and peace matters. And honestly, as I've gotten older, I've become much more intentional about protecting my emotional environment. Not perfectly, but intentionally. Because I've learned the hard way that everything deserves awareness, but not everything deserves unlimited access to my spirit and my soul. God never asked us to carry the entire world on our shoulders. And I keep reminding myself of that every day. Because that burden is too heavy for any one human being. And sometimes we exhaust ourselves trying to emotionally manage the things that were never ours to control in the first place. Matthew 11:28, as I've said before on episodes, says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." Not shame, not pressure, rest. And honestly, my friend, I think some people listening to this episode desperately need permission to rest emotionally. Not forever, not irresponsibly, but for a season, and intentionally for a season. Because you can't pour peace into anybody else's life while you're living emotionally depleted yourself. Now, the reason that heaviness affects us so deeply is because humans were created for connection, safety, hope, belonging, and peace. And so when life feels unstable constantly and hostile constantly, exhausting or emotionally overwhelming, our bodies feel it. Our bodies carry it, and our minds feel it, and our spirits feel it. That's not weakness, that's humanity. And maybe part of healing is finally admitting I've been carrying more than was ever meant for me to hold alone. So today I want you to ask yourself, what's been stealing my peace lately? And then ask yourself what boundaries, habits, or changes could help you protect your emotional well-being without having to disconnect from life completely. What are the boundaries or the habits or the changes that you can make to help protect your emotional well-being? Maybe it's getting up an extra hour early, having your coffee, looking out the window, and reading a scripture that's going to ground you for the day. Maybe it's taking an afternoon away from work or responsibilities and going to sit by the lake and looking at God's creation around you, outside of the humans. Maybe it's doing your favorite workout until you are sweating and hot and adrenaline pumping to prove that you can, because you've worked really hard to get to that milestone. Maybe it's picking up a hobby that you used to do a long time ago and relearning it. knitting or crocheting or sewing or writing or poetry. Friend, protecting your peace is not selfish. This world might continue to feel heavy for quite some time, to be honest. And life may continue to feel uncertain. But you do not have to surrender your emotional well-being, all of you, who you are, who you were created to be, to the chaos that exists around you. Protect your peace, guard your spirit, and rest when you need to. Stay grounded, stay connected to God, stay connected to people who bring you joy and safety instead of constant emotional exhaustion. And most importantly, remember that you are human. You are never meant to carry all of this alone. If you haven't already, go download the free 2026 Guided Bounce Back Roadmap. The link will be in the show notes, or you can grab it on the website, Bounce Back Black Woman. It is free. I'm not selling you anything. I designed it to help you move forward in between these episodes with more clarity, intention, and resilience, one step at a time. And everybody who downloads the guide is going to be entered into a giveaway for the brand new Bounce Back Black Woman t-shirt. So you can wear that proudly and boldly and say to the world, we are bouncing back. Friend, just remember, it's not just you. It's not just me. It's us. And I will see you in the next episode. Well, that's it for today, my friend. I really hope this episode inspired, encouraged, or just plain comforted you. If so, please share it with a friend who might be struggling in her own healing journey. And if you take a moment to leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts, you'll help other women find encouragement through their heartbreak. Remember that God is holding your hand along this journey. And guess what? I'm holding the other. Life is short, so bounce back, Black woman.